Katarinahuset. That is the name of the suburb or place, you could call it, in Sweden, in Stockholm, where I got my very first paid gig in Europe. The year is 1991. I've just arrived from Bangkok, where I've been working for a very undesirable bunch of people, doing some stuff underground, literally underground. And I've touched down at the airport, and I'm looking out for my good mate, Arb, an old childhood friend from way, way back. And he's now working as a boat builder and a carpenter and chippy, a fantastic chippy, in Sweden. He's living in Saltsjöbaden. Picks me up, and we do the big hug and see each other. I'm so excited. And I do the usual things everybody does. But I want to cut straight to the bit where I start playing music and how I actually got the job. Now, I'd been going everywhere. I'd been to Slussen, to the club Chaos. So if you know that, I think it's in Slussen, in the main city in Stockholm. Chaos is a bar which has a lot of music, and I'd played with one guy that played blues, but nothing was going right for me. I wasn't getting work. I'd played on the street heaps. I'd busked. I played harmonica. I'd tried to get into this horrible restaurant, and that bombed out. And they didn't even pay me very well. I was really thinking, it ain't going to work for me here in Europe. It was my first time landing, and doors just were not opening anywhere. I think the problem was I just wasn't professional. I just didn't have enough expertise in entertaining. I still hadn't honed my craft. I've been playing in New Zealand at the Southern Blues Club and at the Main Street Cafe in Colombo Street and a few places around, a few workmen's clubs, but I hadn't really got myself to a level where I was of international standard that I could really punch out good music. Anyway, it didn't stop me from trying, and that's what I did. Now, there was a bar in that place I told you at the beginning, Katarinahuset. That means House of Katarina. That's the name. Huset is Swedish for house. Huset. That place was 7 stories high, Gondolan restaurant, in that suburb. So you went 7 stories high, and at the very top was a huge restaurant called Gondolan, and it was owned by sort of like Greek mafia. So this old Greek guy who was real hard ass, and he had a couple of his sons that were in suits all the time, and then he had all the Swedes working for him on the floor. And the 3 men pretty much were in the office in the back, and the Swedes that were employed by him would go out with the drinks, the girls or the ladies and the men, and it was a big area, and they had a band playing. Now this band was interesting. It was an American guy and his wife, and he looked like Hulk Hogan, the wrestler. He had this headband that was right around here like this, and blonde hair that went down the side, and he looked like him. He had a shirtless sleeve, and he played, and he was quite old. What to me he was about 60. He was what my age is now, but for a 27-year-old, he was quite old. And she was like all tissied up with that blonde hair, and they played typical American music, a lot of American stuff, all American stuff actually, and they were good. But I wasn't getting a gig there. I'd been there twice already and knocked on the door, and I'd virtually given up. I'd seen this girl, Annie, a couple of times. She was a model, beautiful. I mean, the woman in Sweden, they blow you away. Their skin is like peach smooth, and their complexion's clear, and they've got blonde hair. So many have blonde hair, blue eyes, and this, or strawberry hair. Annie was strawberry hair. Beautiful, beautiful woman. I'd seen her on Gondolan restaurant walking around, and she was obviously, it was a regular place she would go. Anyway, on my 3rd attempt to go there, and what I thought would be my final attempt, I went up one more time, and I went in the office, and he said, you again? And I said, yeah, I just thought I'd try one more time, because he did say come back. And he said, well, as you can see, I've got music, and I don't need any. And I said, okay, well, I won't come back and ask again because I've bothered you enough, but thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm going to grab a meal while I'm here. Now, for me to buy a meal was a big deal because it was expensive, and I was living on a sort of backpacker's budget, but I wanted to have one last meal here because I thought this is going to be my last time sitting here. And I sat back and looked at all the people around and that, and at a table at the right-hand side of me, 3 tables over, was this big Swedish man with a very short red beard, and he was a horse of a man, big man, sitting there getting drunk. And the waiter had said to him, no more alcohol. And he insisted upon having more, and the waiter said, no, you need to pay your bill and leave. You're too intoxicated to be here. And he got stroppy as hell. And eventually another waiter came over to try to get the money off him, and they got into a confrontation. And the waiter was saying, you must pay it now, or we're going to call the police. And this guy got really agitated, and then he wiped everything off the table. And when he wiped everything off the table, the second waiter bent down to start picking stuff up. And as he bent down, this guy got him in a headlock and held him like this. And the other waiter was quite a slim man, about my size, not very big. He couldn't do much. He was standing there, and this guy was getting choked out. And I looked around, and not one person at all the tables was stopping to help this poor waiter who was getting choked out by this drunken monster. Nobody was coming to his rescue, and the other waiter was like sort of touching him but not really doing anything. And I thought, stuff this. So I jumped up and I ran across 3 tables to get there. Rather than walk through all the tables, I ran across, and the first table was a big pizza in the middle of the table, this woman and her partner eating, and I put my foot smack straight on top of the pizza. Sliding off that, knocking everything over on the second table. The third table was where I launched myself, and I just dived head first at this big monster of a guy who was choking out the waiter, and I got him in a headlock behind his neck, went around his head, and I punched this hand up tight. And he was so big, he went to stand up, and he still was holding on to the other guy, and finally let him go, and then he was swinging round and round, and I was not going to let go. I was going to hold on till this guy went down, but the other guys were not helping me. The guy that was getting choked out was sort of standing back looking, and the skinny guy was just looking at me, and I was going, come on, grab him, and they were so slow, and eventually they came to their senses and started to help me. The big guy was like starting to get choked out, and I wasn't going to let go, and I was like giving full pressure. And if any of you have ever done that, it's hard on your elbow and it's hard on your hand, but you know if you let go, you're in deeper shit, so you're going to inflict that pain on your arm. And I'm like really hard. He's got a big neck, and I'm really applying the pressure, and he's starting to get wobbly, and then he goes down. Like he just goes down, he just drops, and then the guys are on top, and I'm still locked on because I don't want to let him go, and then they're trying to let me off him. And when I got off him, I looked, and his whole mouth was all blue around here and blue around his nose, like the blood was getting cut off, and my arm was like, fuck. And by that time the police arrived. People had already phoned long before because of the confrontation going on. The police arrived, and it was actually great when the police arrived. It was pretty damned awesome. And the cop looked at me, and they told him the story. Well, I got ushered into the office, and the boss, who was a bald little Greek man, sat back there, and he goes, well, I heard what happened. My sons want to talk to you. And these 2 guys come over, looked like mafia, and they said, yes, we heard what you did. That was very, very, very helpful to us. We appreciate it. And I said, just couldn't stand seeing this guy getting choked out by himself. It was like, someone need to help him. And the father said, you want a job here? And I said, yeah, that's what I've been coming up for. You have a job. And he fired the American people a week later. He said, I'll give you a trial tomorrow. If you're any good, I'll give you some work here. So I came back the following day, and I played there, and I had a blistering gig. It was a really good one. And the next gig after that was even better, and by the end of the week, he'd fired the other band, and I felt terrible because they'd become friends of mine in the interim, and they were cool people. Anyway, I ended up playing up there, and that's where I met Annie, and she was gorgeous, but there's a funny story before that happened, which I've got to tell you about. Before I got with Annie was very short-lived. It was a very short-lived thing. It didn't really last very long. When I went into her house, she had all these pictures of herself in black and white everywhere. She was a model, and she had lots of pictures of herself, and she was basically all about herself. But I've got to backtrack a little bit, because before we started going out, I'd finished a gig at Gondolan, and I was walking down the street, and this woman was walking right towards me, and it's summertime, and the sun's shining through her dress, and everywhere in Sweden you see these beautiful women. I would have been probably maybe 100 metres from her. I noticed her in this long dress, and the sunlight was shining through, so I could see the shape of her legs and her beautiful figure, and she was looking at me, smiling at me, and I'm getting closer and closer, and she's smiling, and I'm smiling at her, and as I'm getting quite close, she starts to look worried, and I'm looking at her still smiling. She's looking really worried, and next minute, boomf. And what I'd done was, I was looking at her, and I walked straight into a big post, like a light post with a light on the top. I walked straight into it and virtually KO'd myself. Well, I didn't KO myself, but stunned myself. Went down the ground, got up, oh, fuck. And looked, and now she's like this, laughing, trying to laugh. And I'm going, oh, sore in my eye and my head, I'm all sore. And that was my first experience at losing my senses over seeing someone so incredibly beautiful. We just didn't have, and still to this day don't have, that many beautiful women walking around where I live. She was amazing. Anyway, I ended up playing at Gondolan regularly, and Annie, the girl that I did like, she was there, so I made up a song about her. I'm not going to do it, but I made up a song about her when she was there and won her heart, and it was very, very short-lived because it just wasn't going anywhere. We just weren't compatible. Arb and I decided to do something one night. I did something very silly, is when I was in Bangkok, I bought 2 tabs of Blue Star LSD. I'm not a big acid head. I'd only ever done it a couple of times before, but I was stupid to bring it on the plane, but it's just a bit of blotter paper. All it looked like was a piece of paper in my pocket that big. Actually, it was in my wallet. I mean, today they'd sniff it out with drug dogs. They'd smell lysergic acid, but back then, well, you didn't hear people getting busted so much for LSD. And there was this big sheets, and they were bringing it in to sell it, but I was just bringing it for my personal use. So I said, Darb, do you want to drop a trip this night? And he goes, yeah. So we got candles everywhere because we wanted to make our buzz better. We set all these candles up everywhere, and we're sitting there, and I drop it and he drops it, and we're sitting back. It's just probably a midweek night, nothing special. And I said, oh, I don't feel anything. And he goes, yeah, no, I don't feel anything either. And we're waiting and nothing's happening. And then suddenly Arb says to me, he goes, oh, I'm feeling a little bit bendy. I said, bendy? He goes, yeah, I'm feeling a bit bendy. I said, oh, I'm feeling a bit bendy too. And then when everything's getting all bendy and weird, and Arb looks at me, and I'm looking at him, and I'm looking at him, and his face is completely normal. And then I'm looking at him again, I'm like, what? Something's not right. Looking at his face, and like, no, we're all good. And I was looking around the room, and then I kept looking at his face, and something's not right. He goes, what are you looking at? I go, nothing, bro. And he looks at me, and he goes, oh, your face looks like a pig. And as soon as he said it, it put it into my brain, and I looked at his face, and his face was normal, and suddenly his nose just went like a pig's nose, a completely round with 2 holes in it up here. But the rest of his face is normal. And I said, oh shit, your face is a pig too. And then he smiled, and then his ears went like this, like he had 2 pig's ears. His face was morphing into a pig's face. I'm like, holy shit, Arb. And we both start laughing. I said, your face looks like a pig too. And we both see these pig faces. And oh man, it got trippier and trippier. And just today I was talking to Arb about that trip, and he said, yeah, bro, it was a really good trip, eh? And I was like, yeah, man, it was a wicked trip. So we started seeing all these different things, and when we'd say something to the other person, it would put it in the other person's mind, and that person then would say, hey, you look like you've got a rooster tail, and suddenly you'd see a rooster tail. It would just, whatever we'd say, we'd put it in the other person's head, and you'd see it, and it was like crazy. Now, I only ever had another trip that was as crazy as that. I didn't take a lot of acid in my life. I did a lot of other drugs. I took a lot of white powder so I could perform on stage. But the only other trip I ever had, and I do digress a bit, but I've got to tell you this story and end on this because it is a funny story. I might not end on this or see where my brain goes with it, but I was on a beach in Raglan in New Zealand, and there was all these hippies sitting around, and everybody was on acid. It was the 80s. I was travelling, and it was the Frosty Pig Dog days, and I was on this beach, and everybody was surfing, and I knocked the camera, and this girl comes up to me, and everyone's poking their tongue out, and we're all getting this tabs put on our tongue. So I take this acid, and I'm on the beach there, and sitting around, and I was already a bit stoned anyway, and I didn't really think much was going on, and I kept on looking at this girl, and she was really, really gorgeous, and she was dressed in purple, and she had a wee sort of pixie hat on. And she goes, ha, 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 and she looks at that, and she's pointing at something. I can see absolutely nothing on the ground. It's just a piece of driftwood there. And she goes, look at it. And I'm looking at this driftwood, and I don't see anything. I said, yeah, cool. But I don't see anything because my trip hasn't set in. Now, it was just a piece of driftwood, but she's seeing something in it that I can't see. Anyway, she just dances off, and they're all dancing and happy and off their faces. And I keep on looking at this driftwood, And now I'm starting to get a little bit bendy, as Arb would say. And I look at this driftwood and, ooh, that moved. There's something under that. Now I've convinced myself there's something under the driftwood. And I'm like, And I'm a bit scared and a bit paranoid to pick it up. But I go down there and I pick it up. And underneath it is this tiny little man, like this big, dressed exactly the same as the woman was, exactly the same purple clothes and that little hat and all that, but a tiny wee version. And instead of just watching him go, he's cool, I grab him and put him under my top and hold him because I don't want to lose him. And I go up to this guy who's sitting there, who's just, I said, bro, I've got this little man under here. And I pull it out there and I hold it up to him like that there. And he's like, frowning at me like, whoa, what's that, bro? And I said, look at him. And there's a little man there. He goes, nah, bro. And I'm like, look. He goes, nah, bro, that's nothing. And I'm like looking at my hand, and then suddenly my sleeve hanging down turns into a fucking rat hanging off my hand, and the little man's gone, and I can't get it off. And the more I shake it, I can't get it off. It's like a rat hanging off my arm. It's like a bad trip. I'm trying to shake this, and all it is my sleeve hanging down. And everyone's watching me shake this hand around, like going around like this. And then I flash back to normality and can see it's my sleeve. And I'm like buttoning it up. Yeah, I'm okay. That trip went from the little man to the rat to everybody became black. Everybody was just white skin was like black, including me. Everybody was black. And then it was like 4 different ways I went. And then the last one was that I had somebody always right beside me. When I turned, they weren't there. And I kept on feeling for hours and hours I had someone right beside me to go to talk, and they weren't there, but like being stoned, and they weren't there. And it was terrible because I wanted it to end, and I just wanted to be alone, but I couldn't get out of it. And it went on for probably like 9 hours of just this thing of bang, bang, bang. Anyway, kids, don't take drugs because you're basically playing with your mind. And I've got a nephew that took drugs and he lost his mind, and I've also got a sister that took drugs who also lost her mind, and I am just fucking lucky with the amount that I took that I didn't end up in an institution or something too, because you are playing with the most precise instrument of your body, and it's not a thing to fuck with. And I was just dumb. I didn't have parents to guide me or anybody. I was like on the road at 15, and we say don't take drugs, but I was just lucky. My nephew Mikhail was just an awesome bloke. He was 18. He was a personal coach in the gym and a real good bodybuilder. He was a lyrical genius who could just spout off rhymes all the time. And he was also incredibly talented at making stuff up, but doing it ultra fast, like way faster than people can. King Kapisi said he was one of the best at the 2016 competition. He won that prize at 2016 competition in Wellington. He was the winner. But he took some hallucinogenic drugs and he never came down, and then his life just deteriorated. He got worse and worse and worse, and eventually he drowned. And the coroner ruled it as, they looked at suicide. It sort of was, but it wasn't. So we just called it an accident, but I know what happened that day. Anyway, today's story is not particularly funny, but it's one I wanted to share, just to put it behind me, because it does fill in a part of the jigsaw to where I went. After Sweden, I went to Germany, and on that train I wrote a letter to my mother, and I want to dig that letter out and read it to you, because apparently she said it's quite an interesting letter. It might not be, maybe it was interesting to her, but if it is interesting, I'll read it in one of these videos. Go steady, and we'll catch you in the next Bro Check Club video. See you later.